we're obviously going to cover multiple topics in terms of empathy, actionable empathy, cognitive empathy. But to start, I wanted to ask, how have you needed to navigate the principles that are in the book through the publishing process as a first-time author?
Oh,
I'm sure it's come up, right?
Oh, yeah. As you know, yes, over and over and over. I mean, both insofar as giving empathy, because I had some real difficult times in the beginning. I had a publisher who, I don't want to flat out say that he, was untruthful, but there was definitely some problems there, and there was some other rocky things that happened, and through all of that, on one hand, I'm trying to have empathy for people who obviously have none for me within this process, but also to have it for myself, because I'm like, how could I be so stupid? How could I not see this? What is wrong with me? I mean, and to understand, it's a learning process. I'm new to this. Of course, I'm going to make some mistakes, but it's actually taken a lot. And it's something I do struggle with, because it's just like, how did I not know this? But I didn't know,
Totally. I mean, that's one of the, I think, most frustrating parts about doing something new and being in an environment and then having such adverse challenges come up in the process, is it seems like there is this tendency to self-blame. So when you're in the workplace and there is this tragic incident that happens, or just a really toxic culture that's happening, as somebody who's been through that myself, it almost feels comforting to some part of the psyche to put the blame on yourself for having allowed it to happen. I think maybe it has something to do with control and making you feel like you could avoid it next time. I don't know. I don't have the degree to know that, but it's so interesting to notice that tendency to self-blame in adversity, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that judgment piece again. I'm judging myself for not knowing. I'm judging myself for not reacting how I should have. I'm judging myself for, not being a worldly seasoned author, which I'm not. And, it's like we say, judgment and empathy cannot exist in the same space. And that includes judgment for yourself, but it's there. It's a very human thing. And I mean, when I say that too, I'm separating out judgment from critique, to critique and to say, how could I do this better? Maybe I can build on this. Perhaps, next time I could do it this way. That's different, because that's growing and that's learning and that's building. Judgment always rips down.
And it's that separation between judgment and critique feels really important. And also sometimes I feel like I'm not in control of the judgment when it enters, right? So I feel like I can't shut it off. I can't turn the light as if it was a light switch, or I can start judging myself for judging myself, in that, and that just like the square root, the cube root, that just goes endlessly. And then I'm really tired and I need to lie down. But I think when you have that adversity and then you have this experience of judgment, how do you respond to that empathically? How do you respond to that with the kind of response that you talk about in the book of actionable empathy? Where do you even begin?
So the place to begin is always with the self, with looking inward, and the first thing that needs to happen is self-reflection. And that just means you're looking in at it, you're reflecting on what happened. These are the facts. Think about it like being a computer. You want to be critical, not caring. So you're not placing judgment on it. You're not hating yourself. You're not hating anybody else. You're just crunching the data. You're reflecting on it. From self-awareness and understanding where that is for yourself, you can move to self-awareness, or self-reflection. I mean, you go from self-reflection to self-awareness, which is, self-reflection is in. Self-awareness, you start to understand how this fits into the greater world. How does this fit in with my relationships? How did these interactions happen? How does this now relate to the book? The things outside of myself that I interact with, but don't necessarily, I can't control them, And then from self-awareness, then you can move to self-empathy. Because if empathy is understanding and connection, then by having self-reflection, going to self-awareness, you can now begin to understand and connect with yourself. which is a lot harder than it sounds. You and I have had this discussion, I think.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.